Hello everyone and welcome to the monthly Resonite Recap stream. We're going to be talking about what happened over the month of July. We have a lot of really cool things for you. I'm Frux. We also have Veer from Moderation. We have Bob, our financial officer. We got the Roof from Content, Aegis from Content, Nex from Media, who's also handling the stream, and we got Chroma from Marketing. So with that, let's get started. We're going to go over a few topics, so we're going to be kind of focusing on some of the major things that kind of happened, but there's always lots of small additions, fixes, improvements, especially because over past month we had a number of additional contributors on the team. We had Syra, who's our new coding intern. We had Rayuvi, who's also works at content, but he's also been making code contributions. Dante, who's with moderation and support, has also been making some improvements. So there's a lot of smaller things. Overall we closed 123 GitHub issues. So if you want to know a little bit more about those, we can always check the changelog either on Discord or go on Steam. We post our changelogs there and there's detailed changes. What we want to focus on though are the major improvements, the one really noteworthy. And there's been two main ones. So first, we would like to talk about major networking improvements for Resonite. This is actually something that's been driven by some of our business use cases. We've been trying to get Resonite working within corporate and university networks, and those networks compared to consumer networks, they can be more challenging because they can be a lot more restrictive. And as part of that work, we made our networking a lot more robust. So the system now supports something called LNL poking. This is a mechanism where if you're in a corporate network, for example, or in a university network, sometimes they have things like stateful firewalls, which don't allow communications unless they're established from both ends. And the system essentially uses the Signal R service to make sure both parties manage to connect to each other without a hitch. With the system in place, we've now have Resonite running on corporate networks, which helps a lot of our kind of business use cases. But there's a lot of other improvements that everybody essentially benefits from, because whatever we do, whatever development work we do for businesses, it's part of the normal client you have available as well. We've improved how Resonite handles network adapters for listening things. We also added support for this TCP protocol. So if, for example, on a local network, instead of using the LNL protocol, the connections can be established over TCP, which can perform better. Similarly, if you running Resonite within university or under a corporate network which does not UDP traffic, which can be blocked in some cases, this can be a good alternative. So it is now available for everyone. One of the big parts for the networking as well was in the interaction of the LNL window size setting and improvements to the LNL protocol to improve efficiency. And this helps with people sometimes over longer distances, for example, between Europe and United States, or between United States and Australia, United States, and Japan, and essentially anytime you have high latency connections, people would tend to queue, and essentially everything that's happening in the session would start getting delayed. And over the past month, we've had lots of positive feedback on the setting. It essentially allows you to very quickly increase the window size, which can potentially destabilize the connection, but also improves its throughput. And people who previously have been having lots of issues have now been able to exist in sessions, so they're even very far away, and we got a lot of really positive feedback. And some of this is also going to be relevant for the next big topic. The probably biggest thing that's happened over the past month is part of our work on performance. We've done a survey where we ask you would you prefer us to focus on performance or the IK first? And you as a community have overwhelmingly chosen to focus on performance. So that's pretty much what we started focusing, putting our major focus on. And in order to enable that, there's lots of different paths we can kind of take, to improving performance. The path we have chosen to take is migrate essentially the runtime that we're using to .NET 8, which is a modern, very high performance framework. Instead of using Mono, which is like an older kind of open source way to run Resonite's code. As the first step of this move, we wanted to move the headless software because that one's kind of easier. For the graphical client, we're still like the Resonite code is hosted within the Unity engine, which has the Mono runtime, which doesn't have good performance characteristics, but is much harder to move it. Whereas with the headless, that exists outside of Unity and is not dependent on it in any way, which means like it's much easier to move to it. In order to enable that move, we implemented a new type system. What a type system is essentially how everything like in Resonite, how is the type of things encoded. For example, if you have a component that's like a grabbable component, or you have a value field of certain type, and any type of component, like when you save it or when it's transmitted over network, it needs to be encoded in some way. And previously, we were relying on built-in methods within the .NET, like a framework, to encode those types. But this has caused a major problem where the way some types are encoded between Mono and the more modern .NET 8 has been different, which made it impossible for example, headless that's running on .NET 8 and the client that's still running on Mono to communicate with each other. And also has made it impossible for the new .NET 8 client to load existing content because of how it was encoded. To solve this, we implemented a new type management system, where we essentially take full control on how types are encoded. This has not only allowed us to make the move to .NET 8, it also brought us some additional benefits. For example, whenever you launch Resonite, Resonite is actually able to figure out if it's compatible with other clients on its own. Previously, this was based on essentially needed to be done manually. And sometimes, like whenever publishing builds, like I would, for example, forget to do it, push a new build, people would try to connect to each other and they would crash. So this helps eliminate that kind of problem. It also puts in the foundation to better support plugins and mods where the compatibility is now determined on a session level instead of like client level. We don't have like this fully implemented yet, but pretty much all the foundations are there. What the system will enable to do is you'll be able, if you use mods or plugins, you'll be able to host a session which includes data types from those plugins, while still being able to connect those sessions which don't have those plugins. And there's like additional kind of benefits in the future that will kind of stem from that. But right now, the main thing this allowed is we published like a few weeks back .NET 8 version of the headless. It's pretty much more or less the same code, except now instead of the old Mono system, it's being run with the .NET 8 runtime. And we've seen like a lot of people in the community start hosting sessions with the .NET 8 headless. And we've gotten like really good data so far. Like everything like we've been kind of hearing and seeing like has been very promising. There've been like a number of sessions which pretty much like broke the record of like, how many users they've been able to host and how smoothly those servers run. For example, just like this week, I was attending, there was a session by the Grand Oasis. There was the Monday karaoke session. And they were hosting a session which peaked at 44 users, and the users they were not even called on the headless itself, which means the headless was still computing, all the IK, everything that needs to be, almost everything needs to be computed, even on the normal client, and it was able to stay at 60 frames per second. Whereas previously, when they hosted the headless with Mono on the same hardware, it would tend to start choking around 25 users. We found a number of other sessions. There's been also for example, the Basilisk session. There was a really big one, which peaked at 65 users. And it held around 55 users. So for a good chunk of the session, it ran for several hours. And it's been very interesting just seeing kind of the sessions on the Resonite change where sessions with cooling systems are, you can now have like dozens of users. You can have, for example, 50 users in a session, and still, the session still runs pretty well, and the headless is able to like handle that. There's been like a bunch of like other data, but like pretty much like from what we've seen so far, like the performance improvements like are beyond our expectations. We are very happy. It seems like a lot of like you are very happy with it as well, because it now kind of enables kind of those bigger sessions, and this also makes us very confident that moving the graphical client to .NET 8 is going to give us huge performance benefits as well. Doing that move, it's a much bigger task than doing the headless. And we pretty much wanted to do headless first because it's easier. It provides immediate benefits because now the headless can handle bigger sessions, and also it gives us very useful data like this. So pretty much for right now, the next step for performance is gonna be moving the graphical client to .NET as well. As part of this, we need to move as much stuff out of Unity as possible. There's pretty much like most of Frux engines already like separate from Unity, but there's like still a few dependencies which are like hybrid systems. One of those is the particle system, so that one is going to be moved almost fully out of Unity into our own system. The other part is the audio system and integration with Steam Audio, so we're going to be moving that. And once those are done, we will rewrite how Frux engine essentially communicates with Unity. So it's much more kind of streamlined, much more performant, and also designed in a way so it's able to be transferred over from one process to another. Once we have those three things in place, we'll be able to make the move where we actually move the code that's like responsible for like computing everything, like except like the actual rendering. We'll be able to move it into its own process, which can now be hosted with .NET 8, and have Unity just receiving the data about like what needs to be rendered. Once that is done, like we expect like pretty big performance benefits just given what we've seen from the .NET 8 headless so far. This is also like paving like the way, like it's paving like we're making the foundation so we can also later switch away from Unity completely into our own like a rendering engine. So like a lot of this work is gonna have like multiple benefits down the future as well. So I think it pretty much kind of covers like the .NET 8 switch. Like we've sent already like great data. We're gonna probably start like next Monday. We're gonna remove the old mono headless, and we're gonna make the .NET 8 headless the main one. We've made like a topic on that. Like the switch should be relatively like easy. We pretty much just need to make sure the .NET 8 runtime's installed. We've already had community members make like a migration on the Resonite wiki, so then once we go to check out. So be prepared, that switch is gonna happen very likely next Monday. We wanted to do it this Monday, but like we kind of had some other things to deal with, so we just pushed it to the next one. So the pretty much covers like the .NET 8. Like we're very happy with this like so far, and we're gonna be kind of pushing like more on performance. However, there's also been other, like I mentioned, kind of general improvements, because we want to kind of sprinkle in like lots of other improvements to the platform, and especially now since we also have like more coders, that makes it kind of easier to do. One of the things that's also being worked on right now is a new system for procedural animations. This is also driven by some of our business use cases, where especially users in desktop, like they tend to be very kind of static, like you can see. So what we're doing is like making a system which is going to make them look a lot more realistic. This is again something that everybody will benefit from. Like it's while this work is being prioritized for a business client, it's going to be available to everyone. So like if you're using Resonite in desktop, or if you're like you don't use full body, your feet animation, your hand animations, head animation, it should look a lot better, and avatar should look kind of less static and more kind of lively. You can check like the devlog, like if you want to see like the progress on that. There's some other progresses, like for example, we're very likely going to add the support for the AV format, which is something that Sairo, our engineering intern, has been working on. and we might switch from this from WebP to like this format because it might be more efficient. There's also like additional work. For example, there's been changes to the word filtering, where due to the changes to the type system, there's because like sessions are now like the compatibility of sessions determined on the session level, so you can actually see sessions. You can see sessions that like might be hosting some plugins, and if you don't have those same plugins, then like you're not gonna be like able to see them, like but your client still receives information about them. This filtering is now done like in the world tab. So like if you go to world tab, go to advanced settings, you can show incompatible sessions, because previously the client would not receive the data about them at all unless you specifically opted into it. Now it always receives that, and you can kind of filter it on the fly. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything. We do have a video on the walking animation. I can just give you like a quick showcase. This is very kind of like early kind of work in progress. So it's kind of using developer visuals, but just kind of give you like idea, what you can expect from the system. I'm gonna paste this in and put it in front of camera.
There you go. I can adjust that for you.
Perfect. I'm probably not going to play the whole thing because it's relatively long. This is like a system which visualizes what our system is doing. So you can see the two red blocks. Those represent the feed. You can see the yellow arrow, which is representing the direction of movement. And you can kind of see, how it's kind of animating the movement of the feed. The system is fully procedural, so like it's able to like respond to like any translation movement and a rotational movement, and essentially like it figures out what the feed should be doing as your character moves out around the world. The system's kind of being built layer by layer, so there's kind of like complexities to the interaction that are being like layered on. Once the feet are sorted out, the system also will be able to simulate the hand movement. So as you kind of move around, like the hands will be like swaying with motion, as well as some head movement. You can see like I kind of made it like walk a bit faster. If I fast forward a bit more, I can add you can make it like, for example, turn around. It's able to like figure out like how the feet should be moving, and you can combine these two. So like as it's moving around, let me actually move it a little bit further in. So I'd like kind of random walk. So it's kind of like varying the parameters over time. You can see it's able to like figure out like the direction of movement is changing all the time, as well as the direction of the movement. As like figuring out like in real time like where the feed like should be placed. It's also going to be very configurable. There's going to be a number of like parameters, so you can kind of adjust how it looks on different avatar. But essentially what it's going to do, this is going to like replace the system that's kind of used to driving feed. So I wanted to clear like one misconception, because some people like have like made like the procedural animations like IK. This is actually separate work from the IK system. So the IK is not being prioritized right now. The procedural animation, what it does, it simulates, where, and hold on, I need to fix my avatar. So like if you're like in VR and you're using full body, the position of your hands and your head is given by the headset, as well as you have like trackers. The position of your feet is like driven by those. What the system does, it simulates the positions of these in the absence, like of a device that actually tracks them. And this can work with the IK system. The IK is essentially responsible for taking where your hands and feet and head should be and figuring out the rest of the bones. But also if you use, like floating head and hands avatar, or as if you like, build your own IK system, like there's a number of like, community users who have like their own. So it's gonna work with all of these. It's sort of like, something that exists sort of like not quite on top, but like it can interact with the IK, but also like is not part of IK itself. So that kind of covers like some of the kind of general improvements. Like I mentioned, like if you want to see like a little bit more, check out like our Discord, check out the Steam, like we posted changelogs there. So for the next part, I'm actually gonna hand this one off to Aegis because we have a number of additions from the content team. So Aegis, would you like tell us a little bit more about what you've been working on with the rest of the content team?
So within the time I've been going through organizing the assets to prepare them for people to use them, I'm thinking of, well, first covering that topic real quick. In regards of the raw assets for like models and such, I'm thinking the best place to put them at first is within Resonite. As you can extract models from Resonite either as like raw files and such. So I'm thinking providing just like how we did with the press kit, is you can get the SVGs and such and icons all within the essentials. I'm thinking of going through and reorganizing that to include like raw files of like all the models and stuff that we want. As well as throughout the month, I've been learning how the UIX spacing and all that works for facets. Because making like a static UI object is different than a dynamic one. So I've made like this little tool here, or well, torture device that dynamically scales a UIX canvas so I can check the scaling and spacing between text and other objects within UIX so I can properly, well, space them out. I've been going through updating the Resonate 98 facets to learn on how to do that, and so I can also help out on the updates and fixes for the defaults within the essentials as well as your own dash. And I do know that Chroma has some things to cover here too.
All right. So, on the website, I've been working on getting some concepts made. So we are building out a accounts page and a way to eventually handle subscriptions to the website through a payment processor. That's the majority of my work right now. You can kind of follow updates on different things of the website. There might just be some small things like licensing updates and additional things coming soon. But yeah, starting work on some of this stuff with accounts. Yeah.
So I think it pretty much covers like the content team kind of additions.
I would like to also say that right now we're getting into the process of having Resonite packages be set up for big avatar creators on Gumroad. And if you guys want to have your packages converted, or you're an avatar seller and you want to reach out, you can reach out to me through my Discord, and we can help you to set up those packages through hand menus as well as imports. So then it creates the process of being a lot easier for people to start bringing in their avatar models here inside of Resonite. So I'm kind of following through with that. So if you guys have any avatar models or know of any avatar creators, please let me know about them, and we can help get them set up as Resonite packages so that it's easy import inside of here. Yeah, just want to give people that information.
Yes, the Resonate package is like a really good way for like new users like when they come in, because like instead of having to set up the avatar themselves, they literally just drag and drop it, and it makes the whole process much easier to kind of onboard onboard like new users and decrease the friction. And Nick's been like working on like the number of like kind of creators to get like a lot of them like set up. We also have like the business officers for the content team. So if you do want to like ask them more questions about what we're working on, they're being hosted every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST. That's 4 p.m. PST. It's hosted in our official Discord. You can check the events tab. Like I think I should like mention like when the office hours are hosted. So if you have like any more questions, feel free to like drop in and ask them. There's also like additional office hours, like Pro Prime Games, they have their own office hours. Moderation team also has their own office hours, so you can ask all kinds of questions. Should move like to the next topic, which is the business of Steam Office Hours. And it's kind of like I was mentioning earlier, is like one of the reasons like we're adding, the account page on the website is because what we want to introduce is the Stripe system for payments. I think like Bob will probably have like more say about it, as well as other stuff like with the company financials. So Bob, would you take this?
Yeah, definitely glad to be here for another recap stream. If my voice sounds different to you, know that I've been replaced by a better microphone. Now, we've closed our books on the second quarter of 2024, and we have many positive things to report. Please direct your attention to the slide with the pie chart of our cost breakdowns. While I went over these categories in full detail in the May recap stream, I'm just going to touch on them on a higher level this time. Overall, revenue is slightly up quarter over quarter. While Patreon revenue has been slowly climbing, we are forecasting significant growth in the second half of the year once Stripe is implemented. This will simultaneously bring in new customers who are unable or unwilling to utilize Patreon, as well as lower our cost of sales by switching to a lower cost provider. My estimates are that if all the Patreons were to make the transition to Stripe, our transaction costs would go down from about 14% to 6%. Additionally, with our new partnership deals that we've announced last month and the ones we're hoping to announce later in this year, we forecast considerable growth in revenue. Now, at the same time, the majority of our cost categories are relatively stable. There was a slight uptick in our server costs as we've been growing considerably over the past several months, and I'm going to be showing you that on the next slide. This is largely due to the success of our marketing efforts in working with the YouTubers. We have been keeping miscellaneous expenditures under control, and as a result, not only are we earning more revenue, but profitability increased from 5% to 6.1% between Q1 and Q2. For our startup in the first full year of operation, being profitable is no easy feat. This was made possible both by the hardworking members of the Resonite team and all of our supporters that have been with us in our journey. As we continue to scale upwards, our hope is our profit margins will continue to grow. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, where we are going to be showing our user growth over the past 6 months. Earlier this year, with limited budget and focus on marketing efforts, we were growing at a fairly stable pace of 3,000 users per month and a handful of patrons. The success of the Tavo and Fia videos saw a large spike in May and June. In Q3, we're focused on smaller creators, one of which is the Bloody Resh, who recently released his video. I'd highly suggest that you check it out, and he'll be releasing another bonus video next week. For Q4, we're in talks with several large creators, so keep your eyes open for announcements on the Discord channel. Anytime you see a video being promoted by us, it goes a long way to click the link and then click the like button. It only takes a few seconds, but outside of supporting us on Patreon and Stripe, it's one of the best ways to help grow Resonite. If you enjoy the content these creators make, definitely comment and share with your friends. That's all I have for now. Please stay tuned for next month's recap stream because I hope to have a lot of fantastic new things to announce.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you very much, Bob. That was a really great presentation. So with that, with the presentation over, that's pretty much all of our main topics for today. So we are now ready to open the stream to questions. We have a question there from Gearbell. Will we ever get more procedural meshes like egg or half sphere? Yes, I have figured out the math for egg and how to make it more generalized. So yes, there probably will be an egg procedural mesh. It might be so. The house sphere is also another one. Essentially what I was thinking about doing, for the egg is you have a sphere kind of based one, but you could use a texture to modulate, the width, so you can achieve all kinds of shapes. And that will not only allow you, to do an egg, but also, for example, stuff the gloopy bits. Or whatever we call them.
That'd be really cool.
You could do procedural gloopy. So we don't have procedural meshes on the Resonite. So there's definitely gonna be more in the future. Next questions we have from Gary K. Do you plan to bring Resonite to standalone? So I would say long term, yes. We would love, for Resonite to run on standalone headsets because that's gonna make it much more, accessible to people. Some of the work we're doing right now on the performance improvements is pretty much a prerequisite, for it to happen. The main challenge with standalone headsets is they are much more limited in their power. Like the CPU is not as powerful, GPU is not as powerful, they have much less memory. So Resonite needs to be a lot more efficient to be able to run on those headsets. And since we're focusing heavily on performance, that pretty much improving the efficiency. It's also moving to the .NET 8 runtime that helps resolve some of the problems because we had some experimental builds running on mobile headsets. But one of the main challenges we run into is also the garbage collector within Unity. Because what it would do is would cause significant memory fragmentation due to how it operates, and it would eventually crash the application due to lack of continuous memory, even though there was enough free memory. With .NET 8 and more modern runtimes, the garbage collectors are much more efficient, but they're also able to compact the memory, which prevents the fragmentation from happening and eventual crash. So a lot of the work we're doing is, setting us up for eventually publishing on standalone. Once we have enough optimizations, there's still some things that need to be done. One of them is content segregation. We need systems to be able to, separate the content, be this world, for example, or this avatar has been heavily optimized, so it can run on lower power hardware, and maybe, put some limits in place on how much, data you can bring into the session. So there's a lot of work to be done, but it is something we want to do in the future, and something that we're the work we're doing right now, even for PC, is getting us closer towards to. Next we have Grand UK. Is there an official interactive world learning basics of protoflags? And if not, would you consider making one similar as tutorial world and default home? So right now we don't have an official world. There's some community made tutorials, the mentors. They have some words to kind of teach protoflags and other things.
We do want to update the original tutorial world as well to kind of cover as much as we can of the basics, as well as make additional worlds they can transfer from there, not just to their cloud home, but to any other major topics, say for making avatars. Protoflux is definitely a big one, as well as any other kind of specific building tool or a generalized one, flexible.
There's a lot of kind of cool community worlds that also kind of help fill the gaps in some cases. So yes. I do recommend kind of checking those out. I know mentors, they host workshops. There's regular events where people help teach protoflags. They do protoflags classes and so on. So those are definitely worth a check if you want to learn more.
I would also make sure to learn from multiple sources, because protoflux, with other coding languages, has many ways of doing it.
And Grand, or maybe you can answer Grand's question there, Bob, because I think it's directed towards you.
Why am I staring to your souls? I never need to blink. I might have blinked last month, but I don't remember.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we are good to do some outros, and would you like to take it away, Fruix?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much, everyone, for joining the recap stream. I hope, you enjoyed the news. I hope, you enjoyed, all the updates, we did and stuff we're working on. There's always, more stuff. We want to, see what's happening. We have, the Discord, there's the devlog. You can find, the updates there. Join the office hours, and also thank you everyone who's supporting us on Patreon, because with your support we're able to spend our time kind of working and making all these cool things and keep growing this company, so and keep growing this project. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time, next month on the next recap stream, or sooner in Resonite. Bye.
Resonite, everyone, and see you next month.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I would like to kind of clear.
Oh, oops.
I lost my train of thought.
Talking about procedural animations.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We have Resonite app. Is Chrome attacker out?
Hello. No, I'm
They're
good.
just relaxing. They're fine.
I got my own.
16 seconds at this
Hey,
point.
Rue, when the slides show up, you might want to move your ears because you're real.
Oh, I know.
Some root interference.